Welcome to the MindHack podcast. I'm your host, Cody McLain, and I've spent the last decade obsessing over one question. What actually creates a fulfilled life? Not just a successful one, a truly meaningful one. After building and selling a tech company in my 20s, I had what most would consider everything. But that achievement led me down a rabbit hole of neuroscience, psychology, and ancient wisdom traditions, searching for what really drives human flourishing. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in personal development, studied with world-renowned teachers, and tested the frameworks and theories that I could find. This podcast distills everything I've learned into practical insights for ambitious people who want more than just success, who want genuine fulfillment. No motivational fluff, no oversimplified answers, just evidence-based strategies and hard-won wisdom from someone who's walked the path. In today's episode, we're diving into what I call the purpose paradox, the counterintuitive truth about achievement and meaning that nobody talks about. I used to stare out the bus window every morning in high school, watching that mansion with its private helipad mock me as we drove past. I was the foster kid that was the outsider, the one who'd lost both his parents before 17. And every day, that helipad represented a world that felt a million miles away. But that was a painful distance between where I was and where I wanted to be, and it lit a fire inside me that would change everything. Most people think that the story ends when you make it. You sell your company, you never have to work again. In my case, I could finally prove to all those rich kids that the foster care kid could do it too. That's where most podcasts, most books, most success stories end, but they're missing the most important chapter, because standing there in 2021 after selling my company for a life-changing amount of money, I felt something I had never expected: emptiness. The summit I'd spent my entire life climbing turned out to be the beginning of the hardest chapter of my life. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd finally achieved what I thought would fix everything, only to find myself more lost than ever. In today's episode, it's not just another success story, it's a raw, honest look at what happens after success. And more importantly, what I wish I had known before I started climbing. We're going to explore why the traditional markers of success, like money, status, achievement, often leave us feeling hollow, and what ancient wisdom from Buddhist philosophy to modern psychology tells us about finding true fulfillment. If you're currently grinding toward your own summit, or if you're already there wondering, is this all there is? This conversation is for you. Because the truth is, the path to meaning isn't paved with achievements. It's something far more subtle and far more profound. Let's talk about what really matters, and why the most important summit might not be the one you're currently climbing. Let me tell you about a moment that captures the achievement trap perfectly. It's 1982, and Steve Jobs has just made the cover of Time magazine. He's 26 years old, worth $200 million, and has revolutionized personal computing with the Apple II, a computer that brought technology into homes and classrooms across America. By this point, Apple had gone public in the biggest IPO since the Ford Motor Company, making Jobs one of the youngest self-made millionaires ever. He had transformed from a college dropout tinkering in his garage to a tech industry icon in just 6 years. This was quite literally his childhood dream. He told his friends years before that he wanted to be on the major magazine cover by 30, but instead of feeling fulfilled, he later described the feeling strangely empty. Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me, Jobs would later say. Going to bed at night saying we've done something wonderful, that's what matters to me. This isn't just a nice quote, it's a profound insight into how our brains process achievement. When Jobs reached what he thought would be his summit, his brain simply moved the goalposts. This is exactly what neuroscience tells us about the hedonic treadmill, our brain's remarkable ability to adapt to both positive and negative changes in our lives. Jobs' experience isn't unique. It's a pattern I've not only witnessed, but I've lived through myself. Having started my entrepreneurial journey at 16, I bought into what I now call the deferred life fallacy. This idea that if I had just worked hard enough now, I could enjoy the fruits of my labor later. It became my mantra: sacrifice today for tomorrow's rewards. In Austin, where I built and sold a company that would later give me the option to never work again, this phenomenon is so common it's almost cliche. You see founders hit their number, whether it's 1 million, 10 million, or even 1 billion, only to immediately start chasing the next milestone. It's like trying to quench your thirst with salt water. Each achievement just makes you thirstier for the next one. But this isn't just a Silicon Valley problem. It's deeply woven into American culture, where we've somehow equated our self-worth with our productivity. We feel guilty for taking breaks and anxious when we're not being productive, as if our value as human beings is measured solely by our output. I see it in the eyes of young entrepreneurs today, that same burning desire I once had, a need to prove themselves, to achieve, to arrive at some imaginary finish line where life finally begins. The cruel irony is that this mindset often leads to burnout, depleting the very sense of purpose and motivation it claims to serve. We're running ourselves ragged on a treadmill that never stops, chasing a tomorrow that never comes. But why? Why do our brains work this way? Think about the last time you pre-ordered that newest iPhone. Remember the feeling? The countdown to release day, obsessively tracking the shipping, imagining how amazing it will be once you have to unbox it. Now, be honest, how long did that excitement last after you actually got it? A week? A few days? Maybe just a few hours before it became just another device in your pocket. This isn't just about smartphones. It's a pattern that plays out in nearly every achievement or acquisition in our lives. The brain's reward system, particularly the nucleus accumbens in ventral tegmental area, which fires more actively during anticipation than possession. A landmark 2007 study by Metzen and colleagues at Stanford used fMRI scanning to show this exact pattern. The strongest neural activation occurred not during the reward itself, but during the moments leading up to it. What's particularly fascinating is how this mechanism scales up to life's biggest achievements. In 2010, researchers studying lottery winners found a pattern that might surprise you. While winners reported an initial spike in happiness, within 1 year their happiness levels returned to pre-winning baseline. The same pattern has been observed in studies of CEOs post-IPO, athletes after Olympic victories, and even Nobel Prize winners. The neuroscience gets even more interesting when we look at a 2015 study from the University of College London. Researchers found that dopamine neurons respond differently to expected versus unexpected rewards. When we get exactly what we expected, dopamine activity actually dips slightly below baseline. It's only when reality exceeds our expectations that we get into a genuine dopamine boost. This explains why achieving exactly what we set out to do often feels underwhelming. But here's where it gets personal. Think about your own life goals right now. The promotion you're chasing, the business you want to build, the status you're seeking. You're probably imagining that achieving these things will bring lasting fulfillment. But your brain is playing a trick on you. The same trick it played on that iPhone. The excitement, the meaning, the joy, it's all in the chase. This isn't meant to be discouraging though. Rather, it's liberating when you understand that your brain is wired this way. A 2019 study in the journal Positive Psychology found that people who understand this mechanism of hedonic adaptation report higher levels of sustained well-being, precisely because they stop expecting achievements to fill an internal void. But that's just the beginning. A groundbreaking 2022 study from the Nature of Neuroscience revealed that our brain's reward prediction error system actually diminishes its response to repeated rewards, even when they're objectively valuable. This explains why even major achievements start to feel routine. The work of Dr. Robert Sapolsky at Stanford shows how chronic goal pursuit can create sustained elevation of cortisol levels, which is our primary stress hormone. His research demonstrates that the constant chase of achievement literally changes our brain chemistry, making us more susceptible to anxiety and depression. Perhaps most telling is a 2020 longitudinal study from the University of Chicago tracking 1,000 high achievers over a decade. They found that individuals who tied their self-worth primarily to achievements showed significantly higher rates of burnout, relationship difficulties, and reported lower levels of life satisfaction compared to those who derive meaning from other sources. Research from the field of behavioral economics adds another layer. Daniel Kahneman's prospect theory shows that we're not actually very good at predicting what will make us happy. His studies reveal that people consistently overestimate the lasting positive impact of achievements and underestimate the importance of daily experience and relationships. Even more intriguing is recent work in neuroplasticity. A 2021 study from UCLA demonstrates that our brain's reward circuits can actually be retrained to find more satisfaction in the process rather than the outcome. This suggests we can literally rewire our brains to break free from the achievement trap. Even more intriguing is recent work in neuroplasticity. A 2021 study from UCLA demonstrates that our brain's reward circuits can actually be retrained to find more satisfaction in the process rather than the outcome. This suggests that we can literally rewire our brains to break free from the achievement trap. So what's the solution? Research from the Harvard Psychology Department of 2021 suggests that the key lies in finding meaning in the process rather than the outcome. When subjects focused on the inherent value of their activities rather than the future rewards, they reported significantly higher levels of sustained satisfaction. The Harvard research points us towards something fascinating, a truth that ancient cultures have understood for millennia. While Western society has been sprinting on the achievement treadmill, other cultures have taken a radically different approach to finding meaning and satisfaction. Buddhist philosophy offers an even more radical perspective on our achievement obsession. The concept of attachment in Buddhism directly addresses why the achievement trap causes so much suffering. According to Buddhist thought, our tendency to attach our happiness to future accomplishments is precisely what prevents us from experiencing genuine fulfillment. And I love Mark Manson's quote on this, as he says in his book, "The desire for a more positive experience is itself a negative experience. And paradoxically, the acceptance of one's negative experience is itself a positive experience." Or you might consider the Four Noble Truths, particularly the second truth, which teaches that suffering arises from craving and attachment. When we constantly chase achievements, we're creating what Buddhists call becoming, the endless cycle of seeking the next thing, believing it will finally make us complete. But as the Buddha taught, this is like drinking salt water to quench our thirst. Ancient Stoic philosophers arrived at similar conclusions from a different direction. Seneca wrote about the futility of achievement without contentment. It is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who hankers after more. The Stoics understood that true wealth lies not in what we acquire or achieve, but in our ability to be content with what we have. The Tao Te Ching puts it beautifully. He who knows he has enough is rich. This isn't about settling for less or abandoning our ambition. It's about understanding that contentment is a skill to be cultivated rather than a destination to be reached through achievement. What's fascinating is how modern neuroscience validates these ancient insights. Research on mindfulness meditation, a practice rooted in Buddhist tradition, shows that regular practitioners experience reduced activity in the brain's default mode network, the same network that drives our constant craving for more. In other words, these ancient practices literally rewire our brain to break free from the achievement trap. But let's dive into one of my favorite Eastern philosophies, the Japanese concept of Ikigai, roughly translated as a reason for being. While Western culture often reduces purpose to career success or financial achievement, Ikigai offers a more nuanced framework built on four fundamental questions. What do you love so deeply that you could do it for free? Passion. What are you naturally gifted at or could master through dedication? Vocation. How can you serve others and benefit the world? Your mission. And what can you sustain financially, which is your profession. But here's what's fascinating. True Ikigai isn't just about finding the perfect career at the intersection of these elements. It's about something far more fundamental, the deep human need for mastery, purpose, and autonomy. I saw this principle in action during my time in Okinawa, home to some of the world's longest living people. There, I met an 85-year-old karate master who still taught daily classes. When I asked him about retirement, he looked at me puzzled and said, "Why would I stop doing what gives my life meaning?" What made his teaching meaningful wasn't just that he loved it, his passion. or that he was skilled in it, his vocation. It wasn't even about the income, the profession. What made it profound was how it served others, his mission, while allowing him to continuously deepen his mastery and maintain his autonomy. He wasn't teaching for achievement or recognition. He was teaching because the process itself fulfilled these core human needs. This stands in stark contrast to pursuits that might tick some boxes but miss the deeper essence of Ikigai. Consider the professional gambler who masters their craft and achieves financial success, but struggles with the existential weight of not creating value for others, or the high-achieving executive who reaches every career milestone, but feels trapped in a role that often offers little autonomy or deeper purpose. The wisdom of Ikigai points to three core human needs that, when satisfied together, create true fulfillment. Mastery is our deep desire to excel and continually grow in our chosen craft. It's that inner drive to get better, to develop expertise, to push past our current limitations. Think of a musician who practices for decades after finding new depths in their art. Purpose is about creating lasting value beyond ourselves. It's the need to contribute something meaningful, whether that's raising a family, building a community project, or solving problems that matter. When we feel our work serves something larger than ourselves, it feeds this fundamental human need. Autonomy is our need to be the authors of our own lives, to have genuine choice in how we spend our time and energy. It's the difference between doing something because we have to versus doing it because we choose to. The magic happens when we find activities that combine all three while also keeping us financially stable. It's not about hitting arbitrary career milestones. It's about structuring our daily lives so we're growing, contributing, and maintaining the freedom to chart our own course. This stands in stark contrast to our Western achievement culture, where retirement is seen as the ultimate reward, a finish line where we can finally stop doing and start living. But this mindset didn't emerge from nowhere. It's deeply rooted in several cultural forces that have shaped the Western psyche over centuries. First, there's the Protestant work ethic, which transformed labor from mere necessity into a form of moral virtue. This religious cultural foundation still echoes today in how we valorize hustle culture and wear busyness as a badge of honor. When someone asks, "What do you do?" they're not asking about your hobbies or passions. They're asking about your job, your status, your place in the economic hierarchy. Then there's the American dream narrative, the belief that anyone can achieve anything through hard work and determination. While inspiring, this narrative has morphed into what I call the achievement imperative, the implicit belief that we must constantly be climbing, achieving, and accumulating to be a worthwhile human being. We've created a society where enough is always just out of reach. Social media has supercharged these tendencies, creating what sociologists call comparative anxiety on an unprecedented scale. We're no longer just keeping up with the Joneses next door. We're comparing ourselves to carefully curated highlights from millions of people around the world. This digital amphitheater of achievement has turned life into a perpetual performance, where we feel compelled to broadcast our successes and hide our struggles. The commodification of wellness represents another troubling evolution. Even our attempts to find peace and purpose have been colonized by achievement culture. Meditation becomes another checkbox. Mindfulness, another metric to optimize. We've tuned self-care into self-improvement, and the rest into another form of productivity. Perhaps most insidiously, Western culture has embraced what philosopher Charles Taylor calls instrumental rationality, the tendency to evaluate everything in terms of efficiency and measurable outcomes. This mindset reduces rich human experiences into quantifiable metrics: steps taken, tasks completed, goals achieved. We've created a world where if something can't be measured, it somehow doesn't count. Take my friend Michael, a successful tech founder who sold his company for 9 figures in 2019. He had the exit he dreamed of, but 6 months later, he confided in me over coffee. "I feel like I've been sprinting for so long, I forgot how to walk." He'd achieved everything on his checklist, but had no idea who he was without these goals. His story isn't unique. It's the logical conclusion of a culture that defines human worth through achievement. The Western achievement trap isn't just about work. It infiltrates every aspect of our lives. We turn hobbies into side hustles, friendships into networking opportunities, and personal growth into performance metrics. Even our leisure time has become another arena for optimization and achievement. We've lost the art of simply being, replacing it with an endless cycle of doing and becoming. The cultural framework has created what sociologist Hartman Rosa calls social acceleration, a perpetual speed up of life that leaves us feeling constantly behind despite moving faster than ever. We're caught in a paradox where the very pursuits meant to bring us fulfillment often leave us feeling more empty and disconnected. The result is a society where we are perpetually exhausted, yet unable to rest, always connected, yet deeply lonely, and technically successful, yet fundamentally unfilled. This disconnection manifests in rising rates of anxiety, depression, and burnout across all demographics. We've created a system that promises happiness through achievement, but delivers only temporary satisfaction and an ever-growing list of new goals to chase. The question becomes, how do we break free from this cycle? Breaking free starts with recognizing that true fulfillment comes from within, not from external achievements. I learned this lesson viscerally when I sold my company. When the CEO asked me how I felt, my response was a simple, I feel okay. And in that moment, that should have been a career pinnacle. I was more focused on the remaining tasks, the handover of the documents, the transition details, than celebrating the achievement. This experience taught me something crucial about the achievement trap. We often go through the motions of celebration, the champagne toasts, the congratulatory dinners, without actually allowing ourselves to feel the accomplishment internally. It's like we're performing happiness rather than experiencing it. We tick off all these massive life goals and immediately move on to the next task, never pausing to let the achievement sink into our bones or truly acknowledge our growth. The real work isn't in collecting more achievements, it's in learning to separate our inherent worth from our accomplishments, understanding that productivity doesn't define our value as human beings. This means consciously stepping back from the achievement treadmill and creating space for genuine self-reflection and experiences that nourish our souls. Whether that's deep conversations, creative expression, or simply being present in nature. The goal isn't to stop achieving, it's to stop expecting achievements alone to fill our cup. While Western culture has trapped us in cycles of endless achievement, other societies offer profound alternatives for finding meaning and contentment. Indigenous cultures, in particular, provide a stark contrast to our modern obsession with individual accomplishment. The wisdom of Indigenous cultures offers us practical alternatives to achievement-obsessed living. Let's look at how these philosophies actually manifest in daily life. In Aboriginal Australian communities, Daididi isn't just an abstract concept. It's woven into daily routines. Practitioners often begin their day with dawn listening sessions, sitting quietly as the world awakens. Throughout the day, they practice what we might call deep noticing, pausing to truly hear not just sounds, but the spaces between the sounds, the rhythms of nature, and their own internal rhythms. Children learn Daididi through sitting camps, where elders teach them to distinguish between different bird calls, wind patterns, and animal movements. This practice shapes everything from conflict resolution, where deep listening precedes speaking, to decision-making, where solutions emerge from quiet contemplation rather than rushed action. The Navajo concept of hazo manifests in practical ways throughout daily life. Before major decisions, many Navajo people perform a beauty way walking meditation, physically moving in the 4 cardinal directions, while considering how their life choices might affect the balance of their community and environment. Meals begin with a moment of recognition for the interconnected web of life that brought food to the table. Even household chores are approached not as tasks to complete, but as opportunities to restore harmony. Cleaning isn't about achieving spotlessness, but about maintaining balance. The African philosophy of Ubuntu, which translates to I am because we are, represents a fundamentally different way of understanding human identity and success. In traditional African communities, Ubuntu isn't just about a philosophical concept, it's the foundation of social life. At its core, Ubuntu teaches that a person is a person through other persons. This isn't just a poetic language, it manifests in specific cultural practices. In many African villages, when someone asks, "How are you?" the response often includes updates about family members, neighbors, and even livestock. This isn't just seen as small talk, but as a vital acknowledgement of the web of relationships that make each person who they are. The fact that Ubuntu became the name of a major operating system isn't just trivia. It represents how these ancient wisdom traditions can inform modern innovation. The Linux community chose this name precisely because it emphasized collaborative development over individual achievement, community benefit over personal profit. We might translate principles of Ubuntu into our Western life by starting meetings by genuinely checking in about people's lives and families, or sharing resources and knowledge freely, trusting that strengthening others strengthens the whole. What's particularly relevant is how these traditions naturally address the emptiness many high achievers feel. They offer frameworks for finding meaning through connection rather than accomplishment, through contribution rather than acquisition, through being rather than doing. Cross-cultural studies on happiness reveal fascinating patterns. Research from the University of California, Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center found that societies emphasizing collective well-being over individual achievement consistently report higher levels of life satisfaction. The famous Blue Zones research, studying the world's longest living populations, found that none of these communities prioritize individual achievement. Instead, they emphasize strong social bonds, purposeful daily activities, and clear roles within the community. But perhaps most revealing is what anthropologists call universal human needs, the core requirements for human flourishing that appear across cultures. Number 1, connection, the need for deep, meaningful relationships. 2, contribution, the desire to add value to others' lives. 3, competence, the ability to develop and express our capabilities. 4, autonomy, the freedom to direct our own lives. What's fascinating is that traditional societies often satisfy these needs naturally through community structures and cultural practices, while our achievement-oriented culture actually works against them. We sacrifice connection for career advancement, contribution for competition, and autonomy for accolades. The Mori concept of Mori Ora teaches us that well-being comes from the balance between physical, mental, spiritual, and social health, not just from external achievements. These traditions aren't just philosophical curiosities, they're backed by modern research. A 2021 study in the Journal of Cross-Cultural Psychology found that societies maintaining traditional wisdom about purpose and meaning show significantly lower rates of anxiety and depression, even in the face of modernization. The scientific understanding of meaning and purpose has come a long way since Viktor Frankl first observed, in the darkest circumstances imaginable, that those who survived the Nazi concentration camps weren't necessarily the strongest or healthiest. They were the ones who maintained a sense of meaning, those who have a why to live. Frankl wrote, can bear almost anyhow. Frankl's observations has been validated by decades of research. A groundbreaking 2019 study, published in JAMA Network Open, followed 7,000 adults over the age of 50 and found that people with a strong sense of purpose were twice as likely to outlive their peers who lacked any clear purpose, regardless of wealth, status, or achievement level. What's fascinating is that this purpose effect remained true even after for controlling traditional health factors like exercise, diet, and genetics. But why does this meaning have such profound effects on our well-being? Recent neuroscience provides compelling answers. A 2021 study from the University of Pennsylvania used fMRI scanners to show that when people engage in purposeful activities, they activate the ventral striatum and anterior insula, regions associated with the resilience and emotional regulation. In other words, meaning doesn't just make us feel better, it literally rewires our brains to handle stress and adversity more effectively. This becomes even more relevant when we look at the neuroscience of achievement versus meaning. While achievement primarily activates the brain's reward system, creating short-term pleasure spikes, meaningful activities engage in the default mode network, regions associated with self-reflection, emotional processing, and long-term satisfaction. This helps explain why achievements often feel hollow, while meaningful experiences create lasting fulfillment. Modern psychology has expanded on these findings in fascinating ways. The work of Laura King at the University of Missouri demonstrates that people who prioritize meaning over achievement show greater psychological flexibility and recovered more quickly from setbacks. Her research reveals that meaning acts as a psychological buffer, helping people maintain well-being even when facing failure or adversity. Perhaps most telling is a 2023 meta-analysis published in a Psychology Bulletin, synthesizing data from over 180,000 participants across 45 countries. The research identified 3 key components of meaningful living. Number 1, coherence, the ability to make sense of one's life experiences. 2. Purpose, having goals that connect to something larger than oneself. 3. Significance, the feeling that one's life matters in the grand scheme. What's most striking is that none of these components correlate strongly with traditional markers of success. In fact, the study found that individuals solely focused on achievement often scored lower on overall meaning measures, suggesting that our cultural emphasis on success might actually be undermining our search for purpose. The latest research from positive psychology labs at Harvard and Stanford suggests that we've been thinking about meaning backwards. Rather than assuming meaning comes after achievement, studies show that cultivating a sense of purpose actually predicts later success. People who report higher levels of meaning show better academic performance, career advancement, and even financial outcomes. Not because they're chasing these results, but because meaning provides the resilience and motivation to persist through challenges. This aligns with recent neuroplasticity research, showing that we become more efficient at whatever we practice the most. When we consistently engage in meaningful activities, we strengthen neural pathways associated with purpose and satisfaction, making it easier to find meaning in future experiences. Conversely, when we focus solely on achievement, we reinforce pathways that keep us stuck on a hedonic treadmill. The implications are clear. Meaning isn't just a nice-to-have addition to success. It's a fundamental requirement for sustainable well-being. As Dr. Emily Esfahini Smith notes in her research, it's not that meaning is better than happiness. It's that meaning creates the conditions for a more sustainable form of happiness. The scientific framework helps explain why so many high achievers feel empty despite their success. They've optimized for metrics that our brains simply were not designed for. The good news is that understanding these mechanisms gives us a roadmap for integrating meaning and achievement in more balanced ways. Let me share something deeply personal. That mansion with the helipad I mentioned earlier, when I finally had enough money to buy one just like it, I didn't feel what I expected. After selling my company, I had everything I'd ever dreamed about during those long bus rides in high school. The car, the house, the bank account that meant I'd never have to worry about money again. I'd done it. That foster care kid who lost his parents before turned 17, he made it. But instead of feeling fulfilled, I felt empty. I felt hollow. The achievement that was supposed to heal all those childhood wounds, to prove my worth and make everything okay, it just didn't. The void I was trying to fill with success was still there, maybe even bigger than before. What followed were some of the darkest years of my life. I threw myself into searching for answers, joining exclusive clubs, seeking out spiritual teachers, trying every self-help program I could find. I was essentially trying to buy my way to meaning, still stuck in the same pattern that got me there in the first place. I kept looking for someone to give me the answer, to tell me why I still felt so empty despite having everything I thought I wanted. The breakthrough came when I realized something crucial. No one else could give me the answer because the journey to meaning is deeply personal. I had to be my own guru. What slowly emerged was that moments I felt most alive weren't when I was achieving something, but when I was growing, learning, and helping others do the same. That's actually why I'm speaking with you today. This conversation won't add zeros to my bank account or get me featured in Forbes, but sitting here sharing these hard-won insights about achievement and meaning, this fills me with purpose in a way that no achievement ever could. It's about taking everything I've learned through my own struggle with success and using it to help others avoid the same trap. That kid on the bus, staring at the mansion, thought success would fix everything. But real fulfillment came not from what I achieved, but from what I could give back. Not from the external markers of success, but from the internal journey of growth and the ability to help others on their own path. Let me share some counterintuitive advice that I learned. The path to meaningful achievement isn't about abandoning metrics altogether. It's about measuring what actually matters. Think of it like upgrading from a basic fitness tracker that only counts steps to one that monitors your overall health. We need a more sophisticated dashboard for life. When I first started this journey, I was still trying to quantify everything. I created elaborate spreadsheets tracking meaning metrics, essentially trying to optimize fulfillment the same way I optimize my business. Ironically, this approach kept me stuck in the same achievement-oriented mindset I was trying to escape. The breakthrough came when I realized that meaningful metrics aren't about measurement, they're about attention. Instead of asking how much or how many, we need to ask how deep and how real. Here's what this looks like in practice. Instead of tracking daily productivity, I notice moments of full engagement when time seems to disappear. Instances of genuine connection, like conversations that energize me. Times you felt truly aligned with your values. And opportunities where you made a meaningful difference, however small. Instead of quarterly goals, consider the quality of your relationships, your growth in self-awareness, the depth of your contribution to others, your capacity for presence and joy. This isn't about throwing away traditional metrics. Your business still needs KPIs. Your projects still need deadlines. But these become secondary measures, supporting actors and a larger story rather than the main plot. Think of it like a garden. Yes, you can measure the height of your plants and count your tomatoes, but a truly thriving garden is more than just about numbers. It's about the richness of your soil, the harmony of your ecosystem, the rhythm of the seasons. You can't quantify these things, but you can cultivate them. The science backs this up. Research from Harvard Grant Study, the longest-running longitudinal study on human happiness, found that the warmth of relationships was the single strongest predictor of life satisfaction, far outweighing traditional success measures. A 2021 study in the Journal of Positive Psychology showed that people who focused on qualitative measures of growth reported significantly higher levels of life satisfaction than those who focus purely on quantitative achievements. One of the most powerful tools I've discovered for aligning achievement with meaning is self-observation and self-reflection. But here's the key. It's not about creating another checklist or turning reflection into yet another achievement to chase. Instead, think of these practices as gentle touchstones throughout your day. Start your day with a listening ritual. Instead of immediately checking your phone, spend the 5-10 minutes of your morning in quiet observation. Notice the subtle sounds around you, the hum of your home, distant traffic, birds, or even just your own breath. When I first started this practice, I was amazed to discover a cardinal that visited my backyard every morning, something I'd missed for years while rushing to check emails. Another tool is to practice deep noticing during routine moments. While waiting for coffee to brew, walking to your car, or sitting in a meeting, consciously tune into your surroundings. Notice the texture of sounds, the quality of light, the feeling of air on your skin. This isn't about achieving anything, it's about being present enough to notice what's already there. Before important conversations or decisions, take a moment of genuine listening and observation before responding. I found this to be especially powerful in difficult conversations. Instead of immediately reacting, pause to truly hear not just the words, but the emotions and needs beneath them. You can also create your own sitting spots, designated places where you regularly practice quiet observation. This could be a corner of your garden, a park bench, or even a quiet spot in your office. The key is returning to the same place regularly enough to notice subtle changes and patterns over time. These practices might seem simple, even obvious, but in our achievement-oriented culture, simply being present without trying to optimize or achieve anything can feel revolutionary. Another important exercise you might try to incorporate in some form is a gratitude practice. Gratitude journaling is a mindfulness practice that involves regularly recording things you're thankful for in your life. This simple yet powerful habit has been shown to increase happiness, reduce stress, and improve our overall mental well-being. By focusing on positive aspects of your life, you train your brain to notice and appreciate good things rather than dwelling on negative experiences. Common frameworks for gratitude journaling include the 3 good things exercise, writing down 3 positive experiences each day, the 5-minute journal method, morning and evening reflections on gratitude, priorities, and accomplishments, the GLAD technique, recording something you're grateful for, learned, accomplished, and delighted by each day. Notable authors and resources on gratitude include Robert Emmons, Thanks, How Practicing Gratitude Can Make You Happier. Also, Brené Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection, And lastly, the 5-Minute Journal by Intelligent Change. Research from positive psychology pioneers like Martin Seligman has consistently shown that gratitude practices can lead to increased life satisfaction and improved relationships. Many mindfulness apps like Headspace and Calm also include guided gratitude practices and journaling prompts to help you develop this beneficial habit. You could also do a purpose meditation, which, unlike traditional meditation, which focuses on breath or mindfulness, purpose meditation is a directed practice of reflecting on contribution and meaning. This approach, pioneered by researchers like Dr. Rachel Davidson at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Center for Healthy Minds, combines elements of loving-kindness meditation with purpose-focused inquiry. There are several other types of purpose-guided meditations, and there's several variations as well, which I'm not going to get into today, but you can take a look at the attached sheet or description for more information on these practices. This includes the 3 questions practice, the Ikigai reflection, and the legacy lens. Remember, as Viktor Frankl noted, life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by a lack of meaning and purpose. Having a purpose-focused meditation helps you to start each day aligned with your deeper purpose. I would also recommend The Art of Deep Noticing, which is about creating intentional pauses in your day to fully experience the present moment. In mindfulness traditions, but adapted for modern life, helps shift our attention from constant doing to simply being. Furthermore, I personally found that using apps like 1 Second Every Day has helped me to find a greater sense of gratitude and purpose for my life. By committing to capture just 1 second of video each day, it trains your brain to actively look for meaningful moments. Instead of rushing through your day on autopilot, you become a curator of experiences, constantly asking, what moment today would I want to remember? This simple shift has helped me to notice the beauty in ordinary moments, from morning coffee steam rising in sunlight to spontaneous laugh with colleagues. Other helpful tools include mindfulness bell apps like Mind Bell or Insight Timer that randomly chime through your day as reminders pause. Research from Harvard's Mindfulness Research Lab shows that regular mindful noticing can reduce activity in the default mode network, which is associated with mind wandering. It can increase gray matter in areas associated with attention and emotional regulation, and it can improve cognitive flexibility and creative problem solving. Remember, deep noticing isn't about adding another task to your day, it's about bringing more awareness to moments you've already been living. As Thich Nhat Hanh says, the present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. Different from gratitude journals, meaningful moments journals focus on capturing depth and significance rather than just positive experiences. Here are some established methods and practices. David Brooks' Life Chapters method from The Second Mountain, reflecting on moments that shift your understanding. Emily Isfahani Smith's Peak and Journaling from The Power of Meaning, recording both highlight moments and closing reflections. And Viktor Frankl's Meaning-Centered Approach from Man's Search for Meaning, focused on moments of purpose and significance. Other notable tools and resources include Reflection.app, a digital journal specifically designed for meaningful moment capture. The Artist's Way Morning Pages by Julia Cameron, a stream of consciousness reflection. And Day One app's On This Day feature, helping track patterns of meaningful moments over time. The key difference is that meaningful moments journals aren't about listing positives, but rather capturing moments of depth, growth, and significance, even if they were challenging or uncomfortable. What makes these practices powerful is their focus on process over outcome. You're not trying to become the best version of you with reflection or gratitude. You're creating space to notice what's already meaningful in your life. I remember when I first started these practices, I approached them like any other optimization project. I'd grade my gratitude journal entries, time my meditations, and try to quantify my progress. The breakthrough came when I realized that the real value wasn't in doing them perfectly, but in showing up consistently with curiosity and compassion. Start small. Pick one practice that resonates with you and commit to it for a week. Notice what shifts. The goal isn't to add more tasks to your day, but to bring more awareness to the meaning that's already there. Remember, these aren't items to check off a list, they're invitations to pause and to notice, to connect with what actually matters. The magic isn't in the practice itself, but in how gradually it shifts your attention from achievement to meaning. Let me bring this full circle by returning to that kid on the bus, the one staring at the mansion with the helipad. If I could go back and tell him anything, it wouldn't be about how to make money faster or achieve more. I'd tell him something that took me millions of dollars and years of emptiness to learn. Success isn't a destination, it's a practice. The new paradigm of success I've discovered isn't about abandoning achievement. It's about redefining it. Instead of seeing success as a series of milestones to reach, we can view it as a daily practice of aligned living. This means, number one, measuring growth, not just goals. Because when we focus solely on outcomes, we miss the richness of the journey. True success includes not just what we achieve, but who we become along the way. Are we growing in wisdom, deepening our relationships, contributing meaningful to others? These are the metrics that actually matter. Number two, integrating purpose into daily life. Purpose isn't something we find, it's something we practice. It's in the small choices we make each day, how we treat the barista making our coffee, the way we listen to a colleague in distress, the attention we bring to our craft, whatever it may be. Success becomes less about reaching the summit and more about how we climb. And number three, creating sustainable fulfillment. The old model of success was like a sprint. Go hard, burn out, repeat. The new paradigm was more like tending to a garden. It requires patience, consistent care, and an understanding that different seasons bring different kinds of growth. It's about creating systems and practices that nourish us rather than deplete us. As we wrap up, you might feel overwhelmed with all the practices we've discussed, but if you take just one thing from our conversation today, let it be this. Tonight, before you go to bed, ask yourself 3 questions. What moment today did I feel most alive and meaningful? How did I contribute to someone else's well-being? And what small step did I take toward my larger purpose? These aren't just reflection questions. They're compass points for the new success paradigm. Because what I've learned, the mansion with the helipad, you might get it, but what makes life rich isn't what you acquire, it's who you become and what you give along the way. In our AI-driven, hyper-connected world, this message is more crucial than ever. As automation handles more of our tasks and social media amplifies our achievement addiction, our uniquely human capacity for meaning-making becomes our most valuable asset. The future belongs not to those who can just achieve the most, but to those who can find depth and purpose in a world of shallow metrics and constant distraction. So let me challenge you. What if success isn't about getting everything you want, but about wanting what you already have? What if the next level isn't up deeper? What if the real achievement isn't in reaching the summit, but in helping others to climb? Because here's the truth I wish I'd known during those bus rides. The void you're trying to fill with achievement can only be filled with meaning. And meaning isn't found in some distant future accomplishment. It's available right now, in this moment, if we have the courage to embrace it. Before we wrap up, I want to thank you for spending this time with us today. These conversations about purpose and meaning aren't always easy, but they're essential. If something in this episode resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone in your life who might need to hear it. Sometimes the right message finds us exactly when we need it most. For those wanting to go deeper, I put together a purpose integration guide with practical exercises, reading recommendations, and reflection prompts. You'll find it in the show notes, along with links to research and resources mentioned in today's episode. If you're finding value in these deeper conversations about success, meaning, and personal growth, I'd love to have you join us each week. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep climbing, but don't forget to notice the view along the way.